Hey guys, Alex Newman here. This is the Sentinel Report. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful day that the Lord has made. Andrew and I are sitting in the rainforest in Brazil. Well, we're inside, obviously, but we're at the UN's COP30, the 30th annual conference of the parties, the UN's climate summit. We'll start today, like we do every day, with a word from the Word. This comes out of Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. The Bible reads, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or tremble in dread before them. For it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not fail you or abandon you." Amen, amen, folks. We must not be afraid of the evildoers. We've got a lot going on at this climate summit. We're here for the New American Magazine, obviously, so you can go find a lot of our reports over at thenewamerican.com. Before we get to any of that, though, I want to tell you about our partners at Block Trust IRA, folks. I've been in and out of the crypto markets going back all the way to 2010. And I investigated a lot of different options over the years. When we were first approached by our friends at Block Trust IRA, I actually spent 6 months trying it out, making sure everything looked good and worked good. And I can tell you, I'm very pleased with them personally. So I do want to recommend that you check them out. You can find them at cryptowithnewman.com, cryptowithnewman.com. They can help you buy and sell cryptocurrencies. They also have a proprietary trading platform that uses AI. Fascinating. I've used it myself, and I've been very pleased with the results. So I do want to encourage you to go check it out. It's all at cryptowithnewman.com. Andrew, we are here, obviously, in Belem, in Brazil, at the UN's COP30 climate conference. Before we get into some of what's going on here, what's your initial takeaway? This is the second one of these that you've attended with me. What are your impressions so far?
Well, first of all, the UN picks the worst places to have these summits in the whole world. I mean, these are not nice destinations. The last one was in Azerbaijan, which is between Russia and Iran. This one's in Belem, Brazil, which is kind of a dirty little industry town on the Amazon River. So with that being said, it's a normal UN conference. There's a whole bunch of activists, there's a whole bunch of media, there's a whole bunch of delegates, and they all have one end goal, which is to convince the world and force the world to accept that man-made climate change, the emission of carbon dioxide, the gas of life, is ending the world as we know it. Now, the only difference between, I think, this COP and other ones is that they're being a little bit more forthcoming with why they want to do what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And most particularly, they are controlling the internet. They're controlling free speech, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I would even just say from walking around this facility, Alex, there's a lot less propaganda. There's just not the signs and the warnings and the alarmism that I've seen at other events. We still haven't made our way through the whole event center yet, but we've walked through enough of it to see that it doesn't seem as decked out as fear-mongering as normal. So that's kind of the initial takeaway so far.
Yeah, and I'm going to grab our camera here so you can take a look at a little bit of what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. This is the main corridor that goes through the summit. You may hear a massive storm. Again, we're in the rainforest, so kind of get a sense of what's going on. But this is what we are looking at right now. We're sitting in a little media booth where you're allowed to do climate change related media recordings. Here you see some military members, and a lot going on here that we will try to share with you. One of the key people who was here was actually the tyrant governor of California, Gavin Newsom. So we're going to show you a little clip of what he had to say. Check it out.
I literally came out here. I'm stunned. I'm just stunned. I got 4 kids. The hell's going on in my country? Not one person from the administration just to show any respect to any of you. Forget politics. Disrespect. We're in Brazil, one of our great trading partners, one of the world's great democracies. I mean, hell, home to you need rare earth mineral. This is the country we should be engaging in. Instead, middle finger with 50% tariffs. That's shameful.
Yeah, there you go, Mr. Newsom. He was kind of a superstar celebrity here. He also had some funny stuff to say about communist China. I want you to check this out.
China, they're not interested in this debate. They are flooding the zone, and they're going to dominate in the next great global industry. So I'm here as well from an economic prism. The United States of America is dumb as we want to be on this topic, but the state of California is not. And so we are going to assert ourselves, we're going to lean in, and we are going to compete in this space. But we can't do that without all of you. And this is how I'll end, with humility and grace and understanding that we need to build partnerships and we need to build on collaboration. So we're here with an open hand, not a closed fist. So we're doing everything in our power. There's a resistance to Trump and Trumpism that is emerging in the United States. But I hope people's state of mind globally is that he is not a permanent fixture of my country.
Yeah, in fact, Newsom went even further. He repeatedly referred to Donald Trump as an invasive species to be plucked out by the roots. And he's not kidding. And he also mentioned collaboration with other governments. He's literally been signing international agreements with foreign powers, including some communist foreign powers. Pretty nasty stuff, a flagrant violation of the U.S. Constitution. I wrote extensively about this over at thenewamerican.com. I encourage you to go check out that article. He's saying a lot of crazy things, but one of the things that I thought was most interesting, he's acknowledging that people aren't buying it anymore, and he's urging the people here to change the rhetoric. He says Americans don't know what a carbon emission is. Where does it land? What does it do? Americans don't even know what Celsius is. You got to tell us what this means in Fahrenheit. And he said you have to connect it to things that people care about. Tell them that the climate scam is going to create new jobs, things like that, rather than hype this silliness about carbon emissions. So it's kind of an acknowledgement that this is not going as planned for them. But Andrew has actually been on an incredibly significant story. They're just giving up on the pretense, and they're just saying, we're going to shut you down. We're going to censor the internet to make sure you can't talk anymore. Andrew, you've got an excellent article about that at the New American. Tell us a little bit about this agreement that was just signed here at the COP involving the supposed information ecosystem that needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, well, this is, I think, probably so far the biggest takeaway from the COP, which is that for the first time in Conference of the Party history, censoring the internet and controlling the narrative has been on their action docket. And this was illustrated in a document called the Declaration on Information Integrity on Climate Change. It was signed on by 12 nations, including Germany, France, Canada, and Belgium. And basically what they said in the document is that countries, governments, need to censor and pressure companies within their various nations to control the narrative to push United Nations approved climate propaganda. Now, Lula da Silva, who's the communist dictator of Brazil, where we are here, in his opening statement at the COP, he said, quote, in the era of disinformation, obscurantists, which I guess are us, reject not only scientific evidence, but also the progress of multilateralism, which is globalism. They control algorithms. They sow hatred. They spread fear, attack institutions, science, and universities. It is time to once again defeat the denialists. Well, first of all, that's just not true. The denialists, air quotes, don't control the algorithms. It's actually the United Nations and the climate propagandists. Melissa Fleming, who's the Undersecretary of Communications for the United Nations. She's kind of like a cabinet member for the UN, who handles all of the comms. She actually said at the World Economic Forum that the UN was partnering with Google to put climate information at the top of search results. Now, if anybody on the Sentinel Report has watched a YouTube video before, you'll notice if you watch a YouTube video about climate change or about vaccines or about health or about gender or anything, there will be a little Wikipedia-looking warning at the bottom of that video. And oftentimes when it comes to climate change, it is the UN warning or clarification of what the truth really is. So that is that collaboration with Google being fleshed out. And this is very significant. It's the first time it's ever been on the COP action agenda. And it shows that these people cannot win via facts. They can't win via the data. They have to control the narrative.
Yeah. And they've realized that, I think, for some time. One of the people later in the show that you're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, is my friend Sheila Gun Reed. She is the editor-in-chief at Rebel Media, which is a major Canadian media outlet. They have like 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. And we used to see them at every one of these. Eventually, they got banned for asking a question. The Canadian government doesn't want them here. So we'll have that interview with her in just a moment. We caught up with her outside. They wouldn't let her in this year again, even though they falsely told her she would be allowed to come in. So very, very unbelievable, the level of censorship. And yet, like typical communists, they accuse us of doing exactly what they are doing. They're the ones rigging the algorithms. They are the ones denying the science. They are the ones who have all the special interest funding. We're the only two skeptics, I think, in this whole entire thing, except for my friend Debbie Bacigalupi, who we're going to bring on in just a moment when we come back from the break. One other big article that I wrote about the summit so far, you'll find it over at thenewamerican.com. A lot of experts, including Mark Morano, are predicting that this COP is going to flop because the U.S. government is not really participating in a serious way. But the reality is the UN is doubling down, tripling down. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the Marxist wannabe dictator of Brazil, is actually saying that they need to now create the enforcement mechanism to make all this happen. He's calling for a global environmental council that would monitor countries' compliance, governments' compliance with the UN's decrees, and then go ahead and make sure that they're obeying what they're supposed to be doing. So they're getting very, very bold in terms of, we're going to silence you if you don't agree with us. We're going to force you to do this if you don't want to. And of course, the International Court of Justice just ruled earlier this year that all governments have an obligation to fight global warming with lots and lots of vigor, and that failure to do so constitutes what they described as an intentionally wrongful act. So they're getting real serious, folks. They're not messing around. They fully intend to shut us up, shut us down, and impose a one-world economic, political, and even religious system on us under the guise of saving the world from global warming. So stay with us. We're going to come right back with my friend Debbie Bacigalupi. She is a cattle rancher, a journalist extraordinaire, and she was kind enough to join us at this summit. She's a superstar. So stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
Introducing PerformLyte. PerformLyte helps support your body's performance from within. This plant-powered electrolyte drink helps you be the power plant that you are meant to be. Unlike most electrolyte products in the market, PerformLyte is more than just a sodium, potassium, or magnesium-containing electrolyte formula. It is bioenergetic nutrition. PerformLyte has a full spectrum of minerals derived from pure, natural seawater, so the balance of electrolytes in PerformLyte is the same that exists in the body, making the nutrient load more bioavailable. In addition, PerformLyte contains a blend of 31 powerhouse vegetable and fruit concentrates and herbal extracts rich in bioflavonoids and antioxidants to enhance energy and oxygen utilization naturally without stimulants or sugar. And of course, PerformLyte is powered by VNI's proteasome technology for rapid and sustained absorption of its nutrient payload. Better absorbed minerals means more electrolytes to promote the essential electrical functions of cells in your body. Unlock the power of your mitochondria. Harness the energy of your cells. This is nutrition that gets in and energy that comes out. Feel the energy. Be the energy with PerformLyte.
Hey, everybody. Alex Newman here again. Thanks for staying with us over the break. We now have Debbie Bacigalupi joining us. She just got back from a meeting where there were some Americans, so she's got a lot to break down as well. She's been coming with us to these for a long time. She's a cattle rancher, journalist extraordinaire, patriot who is fighting hard for our country and for American agriculture, so we're honored to have her here with us. She's just a superstar. Before we go to Debbie, though, there was a really interesting stunt that was just pulled by the United Abominations. They had an uprising by native Amazonian tribesmen who were just so desperate for climate action that they busted into the UN summit. Unbelievable. Check it out.
Não, eles são governo. É uma forma de defender, né, o espaço aonde está sendo sediado, entendeu? Esse momento aqui. Mas para nós é um momento de revolta, é um momento de indignação, é um momento em que nós, indígenas, sentimos na pele a derrota do nosso território.
Well, there you have it, folks. Totally staged, totally fraudulent. We just came in here. There were hundreds, if not more, troops with machine guns, riot shields, gas masks, there's federal police crawling all over the place. The idea that they were surprised by a few tribesmen coming in here with spears and headdresses is utterly preposterous. But if you're watching the BBC at home, if you're watching the French government's propaganda service, if you're watching PBS at home, what you saw was, oh, desperate Indians so angry, in need of climate solutions. Andrew, you have looked at this. You've seen the police presence, the security presence outside. What do you say about this rent-a-mob and this whole spectacle that the UN just staged for the world?
Well, it's unfortunately tokenism, which is, taking a group of people and using them basically to virtue signal yourself or to push a particular narrative. And that's exactly what has happened with these indigenous people. Shortly after that insurrection, if you will, the indigenous people grabbed sticks and lined up outside of the COP and joined hands and blocked the entrance, allegedly, for the delegates so that they would have to face the indigenous people and, basically come to their senses so that they push more climate alarmism and actually push a resolution that does more for the planet. Now, that would be interesting if it wasn't completely staged, because when you look at the wide angle shots of that blockade of the natives, there's again the tens and hundreds of military troops with semi-automatic weapons. There's helicopters flying overhead, gas masks, armored tanks, buses, dogs, everything you can imagine. And the notion that some shirtless Native Americans, some actually wearing Calvin Klein jeans in the picture, would be able to stop this armed security with sticks and block world government leaders from coming into a United Nations summit is laughable. So it does just show that, again, narrative control, propaganda, 1984 George Orwell style is all these people have to do. They don't have the data, they don't have the science, and as Alex said, they've known this for a long time, but the grift was drifting. Now the grift has halted, and they have to go to narrative control because it's flailing. It's the final gasps of a hopefully dying beast, but we don't know if it's dying. So that's why we need to be more vigilant and active to get the U.S. out of the UN.
Well, and that's how dumb they think you are, right? They think that you're dumb enough to believe that a group of natives out of the Amazon jungle just came over here and confronted world leaders with their spears about how badly they need to do climate solutions. They will never let an Indian in who says this whole thing's a fraud. Leave our jungle alone. We want roads. We want development. We want to be able to have prosperity. We want missionaries to be able to share the gospel with us. None of that. Debbie, you've been coming to these things for a long time. It's been such a joy to be able to come to these with you. I mean, you are very knowledgeable about this. You're directly impacted by it as a cattle rancher. Yesterday, you went out on a boat on the Amazon and met some people who, shall we say, weren't very fond of cattle ranchers. Tell us about it.
Not very fond. Although they did say that they want my job, so I guess
they're jelly.
Ultimately, yeah, they're jelly. So yeah, I was with a bunch of press on an invited event on the Amazon. It was a great day. It's amazing here. And I did not say what I did. Like, people were going around and saying what they did. And I knew that if I mentioned I was a cattle rancher, I would be the outsider in the room, so to speak, or, that they might want to throw me off the boat, for example. So I was met with, they were just like ants on candy. They were on me. But I was able to say, one of them asked me, like, what's your goal going to these conferences? And here's my goal, is that people understand the truth. Because in America, we are not being told about what happens here and what they're saying. For example, I was just in a press conference with a representative from LA County and also a representative from New Mexico. And at the end of the press conference, I was able to ask a question, and my question was about the Palisades fire, which here they're using it, as did Gavin Newsom, to say, oh, wildfires, and we need to, resiliency and mitigation and all these things. So my question to the LA representative was, okay, so I heard a rumor. By the way, I'm from California. But my question was, I heard a rumor that the wildfire was caused by arson, and that the county ran out of water. And so sure enough, they have to tell the truth, or they have to say something. They have to respond with something. And whether or not it's the truth, I don't think it was in this case. But he did admit that someone is in jail for starting those fires, and that the fires would have done better if they hadn't run out of water. So this is why we need people here. We need people more engaged, because there's just a few of us asking these questions that nobody else would ask here, because they're all in it together. Like they're all, preaching from the same book, which is, the Global Biodiversity Assessment, that crook book. But anyway, and if you think that your state is not here, Alex, I have a list of the states that are represented.
Let's read these here real quick, Daddy, just so you guys know who all's here.
Or was here.
Was here. Some are here. Some have already gone. Some will be coming. Governor Tony Evers of Wisconsin. Governor Gavin Newsom of California. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham of New Mexico. Mayor of Phoenix. Mayor of Tucson. Mayor of Marietta, Arkansas. Oh, wow. This list is enormous.
It's big.
Mayor of Fort Collins in Colorado. Mayor of Savannah, Georgia. Mayor of Beverly Hills, Missouri. Mayor of Columbia, Missouri. Mayor of Albany, New York. Mayor of Athens, Ohio. Mayor of Portland, Oregon. Mayor of Austin, Texas.
Florida's in there too, Alex.
Yes, Pembroke Park, Florida. There are so many. We've got state senators, state representatives. We've got U.S. senators here. Folks, this is huge. World leaders from around the world are here, and they are making plans right now, mark my words, to enslave humanity. They're working to impose a one-world economic, political, and religious system. Climate change is a pretext. The reason you're not hearing about it from the fake media is because they know the more you hear about it, the angrier you're going to get, and the more reluctant you're going to be to play along. Andrew, Trump called this the biggest con job in the history of humanity. To their faces is what he said at the UN General Assembly just a couple months ago. What's your takeaway from what's happening with the Trump administration right now?
Well, they've dealt a fatal blow, Alex, to the climate show. I mean, just not, bringing representation here was a fatal blow. They said this COP was going to be the biggest COP of all time. That was told to us at COP 29 in Azerbaijan. Yeah, right. The COP of Truth. That's right. That's what it was going to be. And we were going to have 100,000 people come here. And I would argue that's less than that, less than half of that. At this COP. And the U.S. delegation not coming was a big blow financially, as far as attendance was concerned, because of all the U.S. NGOs and everything else that would potentially follow as a result of their attendance. So it's been a major, major win for climate realists. It's been a major loss for climate skeptics, but this is, for climate propagandists. But this is the rub, is that you can't confuse momentum with victory. A lot of people look at this and they say, oh, well, Trump didn't send a delegation. Oh, there was a fail. You couldn't flush toilet paper. They built a highway that didn't work. All this stuff that went on, the native storms. And they look at that and they say, what an embarrassment. What a failure. But the trouble is that as long as this stuff exists, as long as there's a COP 31 and 32 and 33 and so on and so forth, as long as the UNFCCC still exists, as long as the UN still receives over a third of its funding from the United States and is housed in New York City, Americans lose. American sovereignty is lost, and our freedoms are in danger. So it doesn't matter if these cops get worse and worse. The fact that they continue to exist is a problem. So it's encouraging that it seems like it's dying on the vine, but the vine is still alive. The vine is still attached, and it has to be cut off the tree if we're really going to get past this.
And the big takeaway for me is they're doing the same thing that they did the last time Trump was president. Debbie, you and I were in Poland in Katowice for the COP24, and Trump sent a delegation to troll them. You remember they had the side event where they promoted oil and coal.
Yeah,
and
they were doing a balanced energy mix.
Right. Talking about how it liberated humanity from backbreaking labor and extended lifespans. But they all knew, hey, as soon as Trump is gone, we'll get right back to it. Right. And the next U.S. president will be a Democrat, and they'll just go right back along with it.
Yeah.
So we have a systemic problem, and it's not climate change. It is a government that unfortunately continues to betray the American people and sell us out. We've got to get some of these things that Trump has done enshrined into federal law. Otherwise, they will be right back where we were in 2024. Folks, this is a crisis. Okay. And again, we have a little bit of momentum right now, but do not confuse that for derailing this juggernaut. They are dead serious about it. They're coming up with new marketing terms. We're just about out of time. We got to go to break, and we're going to have some powerful interviews coming up with Sheila Gun Reed from Rebel Media, who we ran into outside. And also, wow, that was a loud lightning. Not sure if y'all can hear that, but it's what happens when you're in the rainforest. We have no hot water. I'm sick. You might be able to tell. So, you know, it's the jungle. What are you going to do? But say a prayer for us, folks. Stay tuned. We're going to have a whole lot more. Get over to thenewamerican.com to see our articles and our coverage that we're going to be putting out throughout the week. We will be back in just a moment. We've got an interview, like I said, with our friends over at Genesis Gold coming up to talk about what's going on in the gold markets and with the economy. We have an interview with Sheila Gun Reed coming up in just a moment. She was here at the conference, was not allowed in. You want to stay tuned for that. Major journalist blocked, not allowed access. And then we will be right back after this quick message here on the Sentinel Report.
In 1776, a nation was born, forged in the crucible of revolution. Brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Hey guys, Alex Newman here. We are outside the COP30 in Belem in the Amazon rainforest. This is the UN's annual climate summit, and we're standing next to Sheila Gun Reed. She has been historically a staple at these things, although now she's banned here at the climate summits. Thank you, Canadian government. She's the editor-in-chief at Rebel Media, a major Canadian outlet. Sheila, they're not letting you in, huh?
No. So we have been banned from these summits since 2016 when I asked a prickly question of a member of the Canadian delegation, which simply was, how did you get here? Like, you know, we're in the middle of nowhere. How did you get here to come and lecture us about our environmental footprint? And the Canadian delegation at that time complained. So we've been banned. We've been doing all of our work from the outside, which I think is pretty interesting too, because you could sort of spot the hypocrisy from the outside. Never stops us from coming, but we actually applied for accreditation this year, as we always do. We always, you know, try to go through the motions the right way. And they accredited us. So we thought, holy heck, we're actually going to get inside and see some air conditioning. Well, I saw the air conditioning briefly. We went inside and we presented our accreditation letter. And then, you know, there's a little chatting back and forth. Oh, there's a problem. Go to the help desk. And then they said, well, we can't let you in today. There's a problem with your accreditation unless you're affiliated with an NGO, which we're definitely not, or...
Yeah, you're press, not an activist.
Exactly. Or if we're accredited through a national delegation. The Canadian government blacklisted us. So we obviously, and we're independent media. We would never want to affiliate ourselves with the Canadian government anyway. You know, that's my reason for existing. So they've now told us that we can't come in, but that's okay. We'll do the sort of journalism we always do. You know, we'll expose the hypocrisy. We went to the highway. We've shown the open.
The highway is where they cut through a huge chunk of protected rainforest, and they didn't even finish on time. So
right, and you can't find it on Google Maps. But we got real creative because we're journalists, and that's what we're going to do. But it's not lost on me that this is the year that they signed on to the United Nations Declaration on Misinformation, on climate disinformation. And, you know, telling the truth with regard to climate change for these people is disinformation. I don't believe taxes change the weather.
How dare you? That's heresy.
I believe that CO2 is plant food, and I believed that our developed nations with cheap, reliable energy are much cleaner than the nations that don't have it.
Very true. So what's your takeaway so far? I mean, you've been here for a few days already. You've seen some of the hypocrisy. Obviously, we see it every time we come. But what's your takeaway about the conference so far?
Well, I don't know. I can't get in. But I mean, just the fact that they're holding this conference at the mouth of the Amazon. You know, we went out and we found the 2 cruise ships that they are housing these delegates in, where they built a special port to house the delegates in, where it's an hour round trip just to get back and forth. We went out and found that. And it's this beautiful, high security new port. And there's a sewage river going straight out into the bay. And I thought, this is the problem here. We are just, you know, paving over nature or abusing nature to host their little climate summit selfie fest. You know, there are real things that could be done here to help the people of Brazil to make this a much more clean and environmentally sound place, but we're just having parties instead.
Mm-hmm. So you've covered a lot of these over the years. Every year they come and save the world or get a little bit closer to saving the world. How close are we to saving the world now?
I think no closer than we were before, because I don't think the world is ending because of climate change. I'm not part of that apocalyptic doomsday cult where I think that our Western way of life is the reason that the world is getting grosser and hotter. I think our Western way of life is cleaner and more hygienic, and people live longer and more comfortably than they do in less developed nations. And yet these people in this conference are going to collude to make sure that the developing world never gets access to our way of life.
Mm-hmm. So obviously your government, Mark Carney, and before that Justin Trudeau, they've been enthusiastic supporters of all this. Our president of the United States says it's the biggest con job in the history of humanity. So what's going on in Canada? I mean, give us some update on what these climate policies and carbon taxes and stuff have done to Canada, and you know, how does that apply to America? I mean, could we see something similar? Where do you think we're at in the United States?
I think you're very lucky in the United States because you've got such a common sense president who realizes that when you, besides the environmental nonsense of it all, when you tax basic necessities like electricity, home heating, vehicle fuel, it just causes inflation to skyrocket. And in Canada, we're dealing with inflation because of unfettered immigration and the burdens that it puts on housing and healthcare and all those things. And, you know, we have Mark Carney because Justin Trudeau had a wildly unpopular carbon tax. And so the country threw out Justin Trudeau and then elected Mark Carney, who was Justin Trudeau's chief financial advisor for 4 years, the guy whispering in his ear to, you should bring in carbon taxes. And so it really doesn't make any sense. And now we've removed the consumer carbon tax and they're hiding it upstream in a large scale emitters carbon tax, as if that stuff doesn't trickle down to the people, you know, putting fuel in their car. It's just a disaster right now in Canada. And I think it's really fueling Western separation in places like Alberta, where I live, because we didn't vote for this. They are attacking our energy sector because we are the Texas and then some of Canada. And it's really causing a crisis in our confederation right now.
And when you say separation, you mean actually Alberta is talking about leaving Canada and becoming a sovereign nation?
We're in the process right now of people organizing to gather signatures for what's called a citizen-led referendum, which would put a constitutional question to the people of Alberta. Do you want to remain inside of Canada? And it is really gaining momentum. I think about a year ago, 1 in 3 Albertans expressed separatism sentiment. Now, post Mark Carney, that's just ticking right up. And if Alberta does leave, it will be the first domino to fall, because Saskatchewan, I'll compare it to Oklahoma, it's not going to stay behind to lift the load of what's left of Canada. It will come with us. I think if Mark Carney doesn't change, it's going to rip our country apart.
I was just in Saskatchewan a couple of weeks ago, and so many people were talking about that very thing.
Normal.
Yeah.
It's completely normal. It's not a fringe idea.
Yeah.
It's something that's been percolating in the background as long as I can remember, but I think is really real this time, where it's people are motivated, they've got a question, there's a process to do it, and if Quebec can threaten to do it all the time, we sure can.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's not a lot of coverage about any of this in the American media. I mean, not the separation, not the climate summit. Americans are not really paying attention. What's your message to Americans who, of course, are facing the same threat, but are just not hearing anything about it? Why do you think the media in the U.S. doesn't talk much about this stuff? And what do Americans need to know?
Well, at least you have a free press there. As colonized as they are by the Democrat Party, they're not colonized by government money. In Canada, our media, by and large, in some form or another, is colonized by government money. And I'm not just talking...
Not Rebel.
Not Rebel, never Rebel, will never take a penny from the government. And there are a few independent media outlets, True North, Juno, but everybody thinks about the CBC as the state broadcaster, and it gets a ton of money, but the other outlets do too. So they're paid to parrot the party line. So my advice to you is celebrate your free press, as free as it is, even though a lot of it leans Democrat, but also look at Canada as a warning. We've got unfettered migration. It's crushing us when it comes to inflation. We've got attacks on our oil and gas sector. You can't vote Democrat. That's what I'm saying. You can't, not even once. Don't do it, not even once. Because Canada is the world's third largest oil and gas reserves. And we can't get a pipeline to Tidewater. It's crazy. We should be like Dubai. But we are being crushed under the weight of our government. Do not dabble with the Democrats. Ever, never, not once.
And on that subject, what do you think is the real agenda? I mean, why are they pushing the carbon taxes? Why are they pushing the mass migration that, of course, Canada and the United States have seen in all of Western Europe? What are they doing? Why are they doing it?
Well, if you pay attention to the World Economic Forum, and I do, we send a team every single year, we'll own nothing and be happy. And this is what they're pushing at us. The oil and gas jobs are well-paying jobs. You can make $250,000 a year in an oil and gas job with a high school education. And boy, the global elites hate it when the peasants start making a little money and getting a little bit of power. And it is really to centralize the power with the people who think they deserve the power and strip it away from the rest of us.
Yeah. Wow, scary. Before we let you go, Sheila, do you have any recommendations on, how people should think about this, what they might do to try to avoid the kind of future you're describing that these global elitists have planned for us?
My advice is to always remember that taxes don't change the weather. The government can't control the weather. That we're the stewards of the resources as people. And there are new and advancing technologies where you can harvest oil and gas wealth and coal wealth in new and wonderful, cleaner than ever ways. And those advances are being done where I live, where you live in the United States. And that should be shared with the developing world, like places like Belem. And we should reject the idea that the developing world should be damned to languish in poverty and disease.
How do people follow your work and stay in contact with what you guys are doing?
Thanks for giving me the opportunity. It's rebelnews.com. It's really easy. You'll find us on the web or on YouTube, Rumble, wherever you find your news. That's where we'll be.
Very good. And you're on X as well, right?
Yeah, I am. It's at Sheila Gun Reed.
Sheila Gun Reed. All right, folks, that's all for now. We will talk to you later.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. I am Alex Newman, your host, folks. Thanks for being with us. We've been warning you for years about the digital currency and the digital IDs and the digital wallets and really the digital gulag that they are building for all of humanity. And it's becoming more real by the moment. The European Union is now moving full speed ahead with digital wallets. They're criminalizing cash transactions over, I think, like $1,000 or something pathetic. They are building the tools to not just spy on everything we do, but require every single transaction to have permission from our overlords at the central banks and the mega banks and, of course, the governments and the giant European superstate. Joining us to discuss all this and much more is friend of the show, Bill Armour. He's a director over at our partner, Genesis Gold. They do wonderful work. That's actually where I get my precious metals from. Bill, welcome to the program. Thanks for coming on today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you as well. Bill, you've been following these developments in Europe. I assume you share our concerns. What do you make of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is a pretty brazen step in what we all understand that this is coming, that this is an objective. We get that. But I think it still surprises people when we see this kind of legislation come out, especially from, a Western country, This isn't China we're talking about here. This is the EU. We're talking about digital wallets. We're talking about, for everyone. We're talking about, like you said, criminalizing cash transactions. It's a continuous move here to change the fundamental infrastructure of the world, how we do business, how we interact with one another, which allows for a great amount of control that can be pressed upon us. Yeah,
it's really concerning in my opinion. And you're right, this is not China. They seem to be taking a page from China's playbook. I mean, this seems to be almost a replica of what the CCP has done over there. And I think a lot of people right now, Bill, are kind of just Pollyanna-ish about the United States. Oh, well, Trump's the president. We don't have anything to worry about. Are you concerned that we could see this kind of trend in the United States in the not-too-distant future?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing, personally that I believe is that we still have a lot of rot that exists in the country. We have certainly not cleared it all out yet. And you see that even with things like auditing Fort Knox. That still hasn't happened yet. And I don't think that's because Trump doesn't want that to happen. I think because there is a lot of deep state actors that are still firmly entrenched that this does take a lot of time to get out. And frankly, it may take longer than this presidency for President Trump. So all of that to say, I think taking the approach that, well, we'll get it figured out and it'll be fine. I think it's naive because this is a huge battle. And frankly, the enemy that we face in this is one that would rather blow up the country than give up power. So there's a lot at stake here for them, a lot at stake here for us. And we're seeing that across the world, the goals of this deeper enemy is being accomplished. And so putting the United States on kind of a pedestal here, well, it could never happen here. I always advertise not to be so cavalier about that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. In fact, during the last administration, Joe Biden, he signed an executive order accelerating CBDC development and deployment, and I think we would be very naive to assume that everything's going to be fine forever just because the current president doesn't necessarily approve of those things. But speaking of the current president, we do see this incredible integration of AI and big data into seemingly every area of government now. We see Palantir coming alongside the federal government. I personally am pretty concerned about the prospects of AI being utilized, not just in the governing aspects, but also the economic aspects with central bank digital currencies and the digital IDs and digital wallets. What do you think? Why is AI being plugged into everything, and what does that mean from the perspective of freedom, financial sovereignty, independence, and even preserving our wealth?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just for the scale of this, right now AI is a $400 billion industry, and that's growing rapidly. The two largest chip manufacturers make up about $8 trillion. NVIDIA, obviously, the largest company now in the world. So there's just the scale of this is enormous, and it's continuing, it's growing, and it's kind of seeping into every place. There's a report that says that about 60% of jobs in America will be replaced with AI over the next 10 or 15 years. So we're talking about, again, a seismic change in the world as we know it. And as AI seeps into banking, information, all of these healthcare, all these critical sectors, we realize that no one's really putting a cap on what this can do or how it can control this. I think one thing is currently you have to pass legislation for things to change, but imagine one line of code can be altered and suddenly the entire world as we know it. We put ourselves at such a precipice where everything around us is dangerous with AI, if you include that into everything. I'm a firm believer, don't get me wrong, AI probably has some value there, but I'm a firm believer that we cannot trust AI to be our savior in this. And I think that there is almost this God mentality that is being given to AI, and no one is checking, or at least not seriously enough checking it, and it will get out of control if we don't.
Yeah, I agree with you 110%, Bill. One of the things I've been doing since college is just trying, whenever I have a little bit of extra cash in the bank, to purchase a little bit of gold and silver. And I mean, for me, that's been more of a wealth preservation strategy than anything. But now with all this crazy technocratic control grid being built around us, I think there is some value there. What are you guys seeing over at Genesis? Are people responding to this in that way? And what are some of your recommendations in terms of trying to make some use of precious metals in resisting this evil?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's funny because right now we're actually the largest buyers of precious metals right now are central banks. We're seeing for the fifth year in a row a record in central bank purchasing for metals, gold and silver. So we're seeing that reflected in the price. Obviously, that's why gold is over 4,000 right now. But this continued climb there. So first off, it's important to remember that the same people that are selling the digital wallets, et cetera, that are pushing that agenda are also the same people that are starting to hoard the gold and silver. So that should ring alarm bells, I think, for everyone. But beyond that, as far as what we're seeing out of general everyday people, absolutely. They're realizing here that they just don't have the trust in whether it's our government or the entire fiat system as a whole, that they want to rely on that to be kind of that bridge that gets them through retirement. So they're shifting from stocks, bonds, mutual funds, dollars. A lot of people are shifting from those into precious metals, as you can think of it as the vehicle that's going to drive them into retirement and beyond, whether that's legacy. So I would say absolutely. In fact, I've been doing this a long time, and I don't think I've ever really seen a move into metals this decisive from people. And that's saying something, because we had 4 years of Biden.
Yeah, no kidding. The prices have been really interesting. Folks, if you do want to connect with our friends and partners over at Genesis, you can go find them. They're online. You can find them at goldfuturewithnewman.com. If you're listening to us on the radio or by podcast, just get over to goldfuturewithnewman.com, goldfuturewithnewman.com. If you're watching us on TV or on any of the online things, you can look at it right on the screen there, goldfuturewithnewman.com. Bill, we did see a little bit of a pullback in gold and silver prices over the last few weeks, but that seems to be reversing now. Monday, with news that the government shutdown may be coming to an end, we saw just skyrocketing prices again. Where do you think this is all headed? I mean, they're claiming now that inflation is coming under control. I'm not sure I believe them, but what do you think about where we may see prices and money moving?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is the pullback was very expected. We saw this around, when it broke 2,000. This now feels like forever ago. Around when it broke 3,000, 3,500. You see these roughly 5 to 7% pullbacks. But to keep in context, that's after, a 50% move. Gold started this year 50% lower, around $3,000 than it is now. So, anyone that's talking about a couple percent pullback, that's really just a healthy pullback. And now it consolidated over the last couple weeks, and it's starting to kind of move back up again, which a lot of people saw again throughout the last few years with metals. It's been a very traditional way. You don't want to see it scream up nonstop and never have these cooling offs, because then you really never know where the bottom is. When it has these sort of plateaus, that's a great sign. Pull back and plateau into movement again. So from a technical stance, a lot of people are very excited about that. As far as where gold and silver are going, most analysts are looking at that $6,000 mark for gold over the next year, 2 years, and that's just kind of continuing in with the trend where it should be. On the silver side of things, even more aggressive though, and that's due to some mine closures across the world. Silver demand for the 6th straight year, we're in a deficit, so that means the last 6 straight years we have produced less silver than we have used. It's also not a tremendously recyclable metal, in that once we use it, we often can't reuse it. So we're at a point here where we're starting to really run low on silver supplies. COMEX, the London Metals Exchange, all of which are being stretched thin on physical gold and silver. It's a whole other story, but we've seen that recently as well. So all of that to say, silver, in the 120 mark over the next few years is what many analysts are starting to project just to come in line with where it should be historically compared to gold.
Yeah. So big picture, Bill, with all that in mind, what are some ways that you think people could try to push back, if it's even possible, these trends with the digitization of currency, the elimination of financial privacy? I mean, what should people be doing? Call your congressman? I mean, what do you do about something like this that's just so huge?
Yeah, I would say obviously, vote, congressmen, et cetera, all of the normal things that we always do. But I also think there's a big piece to voting with your dollar. And what I mean by that is if you don't believe in something, don't put your money into it. I talk to so many people and find out all of a sudden they say, I hate BlackRock, this and that. And then they look at their portfolio and they said, Bill, most of my money was with BlackRock. And it's, it's this cognitive sort of dissonance that exists. And a lot of people just don't think that much about it. So I would say to that, if you are against the digital dollar, if you are against this AI movement, don't participate in it, move away from it. Something like precious metals is a tremendous alternative that, obviously is great for your finances, has protective elements to it, but also is a vote no against what we're seeing in this digital economy.
Yeah, excellent insights. Bill, I want to thank you for coming on the program today. Thanks for all that you guys are doing to sound the alarm, to bring good insights to the folks, and, of course, to help our listeners and viewers. We appreciate it very much, and I hope we can get you back on within the next few weeks, if not sooner.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks, you too. Folks, that was Bill Armour from Genesis Gold Group. Check them out. Good friends of the show, partners here. We appreciate them very much, and we appreciate you. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.
All right, folks, that is all we had for you today here on the Sentinel Report. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're hearing us on radio or TV or YouTube or Rumble or X or any of the platforms. We really appreciate you tuning in. Again, remember, we have not won this battle yet. We're only just getting started. The climate totalitarians are only just getting started. I want to thank you for tuning in. Andrew, Debbie, anything final to say?
I just want to say that, the pressure's on right now, and we need to keep our foot to the pedal right now on combating all of this.
Andrew?
Yeah, as I said earlier in the broadcast, I think that we have a massive momentum here. President Trump being in the White House has been a tremendous asset, but we can't confuse momentum for victory. We have to keep pressing forward. And we'd also appreciate if you say a prayer for us, for our protection, for our health, that we'd be able to get back safely to our families and to the country we love, the United States of America.
Amen. And all right, folks, we're going to show you one more time. Here's what's going on all around us. Most of these people are here on a taxpayer-funded dime, and they want your freedom. They want your children. They want your church. They want it all. We got to say no. Thanks, guys. Love you. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.